Good evening and a very, very warm welcome to you wherever you may be. It's an absolute pleasure having you here tonight. It's the football fan zone. It's all about you, the fans. And my name is Tonchi Prusak. I'm one of your co-hosts. And joining me also here, as he does every week, is my co-host, none other than Craig Filer. Craig, a very, very warm welcome to you. How are you, my friend? How's things with you?
Very good, Tonch. Thank you. Yourself? All good?
You know, not too bad. It's the end of the weekend. We're looking forward to, I guess, another busy week. Every day, the goalposts seem to be changing. Every day, things are different. We don't know what tomorrow holds, let alone what 2-3 days holds. But I tell you what, there's a lot to talk about. So much news is happening. And tonight, mate, we've done our talking. we did a lot of talking on Thursday, and I'll tell you what, a lot of listening. What a great show Thursday's Football Out West was, wasn't it? Hello.
Great show. Probably one of the best we've had, actually. Two very good discussion points. One from, like I said, in your report back, two different ends of the spectrum, with Harry that's been about the blocks for a long time here in Victoria, and obviously Drew Sherman, who's only been in the country a few years and is already making strides. So really good insight into two different sides of what football is, but I suppose the consensus is that it comes down to the coaching, and we touched on that a couple of times now, and I think it's something for everybody to start thinking a little bit more about. But yeah, fantastic show. And we're certainly going to get them back on in the next month for sure, because it was riveting listening.
Absolutely. Tonight we welcome all the viewers from the Geelong Region Soccer Show. For the first time, we are being simulcast on two different Facebook pages. Amazing. The technology is just constantly going ahead in leaps and bounds, and the platform that we use, Be Live, is incredible. It has allowed us just to constantly evolve and constantly improve our shows as we go along. So before we go any further, the number that you need to write down, and we'll be constantly telling you about this number throughout the night, 0497 151 234. That's 0497 151 234. Make sure to write that down, or here it is. It's down below us, 0497 151 234. That is the magical number, Craig. If people want to talk to you or to me, or they just want to rant about something, or they want to suggest something, or they want to tell us anything to do with football, folks, the ball's in your court. We'd love to hear from you. But getting back to Thursday night, I mean, both speakers, both Harry Bingham and Drew Sherman, were absolutely unbelievable. But for you, mate, what did you most take out of Thursday's conversation?
Yeah, look, as I said earlier on, I think there was lots to take out of it, Tonch. I mean, where do we start? But I think it goes back, for me, go back to what Australian football was good at, and Harry touched on it, Craig Moore's touched on it, Ron
Smith,
yeah, spoke about it. Football in 2006 was at the heavy heights here in Australia, but for some reason we've gone backwards. So start to take some of the things that worked very well back in 14, 16 years ago, and try and redevelop that. And from Drew's side, for me there, it was, don't judge the academies too soon. They've only been going for a short while. Judge them in 14 years is exactly what he said. I think when the next group of players will hopefully come through the system. So look, there was lots and lots, and I know you've done some fantastic reports this week on the interviews. And for those that haven't had a chance, give yourself 5 minutes and just have the read of them, because they are very well put together. So well done you.
Thank you, mate. There is an article coming out tomorrow, and that's about Harry Bingham. And the article is something I took out of that, quite frankly. And he has a swipe at the national curriculum. And it's not just a case of just having criticising for the sake of criticising. Remember, this is a bloke who's been involved in football in this country for about 40-odd years, 30, 40 years. So he knows his stuff, and he's been in some pretty high-level positions, both as far as coaching education and as far as talent identification, having worked with both Football Queensland and Football Victoria in the past. He has a swipe at the national curriculum and really says it why that's the case. He's got some good things to say about it. He's also got some, I guess, negative and it's constructive criticism. That's something I took a lot out of it. That article will be coming out tomorrow. Now, if you are a member of either the Football Out West show or the Geelong Region Soccer show, you would have got that today in today's special weekly news bulletin that came out earlier today. So you will have heard all about that. So, look, it was an ongoing discussion, an ongoing debate about what needs to be done in this country. And I must say, Craig, I've really been, what's the word? I've been really excited about some of the dialogue, some of the discussions, some of the debate that has been happening around our wonderful game over the last 6 to 8 weeks. And we've really been in the thick of it.
Yeah, we have, Tunch, and we were talking earlier on today about what does the next 8 to 10 weeks look like. And when you go down the list of people that we've had on, so St Albans Saints in episode 3, then we had Rob Sherman and Craig Moore, we had Zelko Kalach, we've had John Aloisi, we've had Ivan Jolic, we've had Peter Filopoulos, Danny Tiato, Simon Hill, Ron Smith. We had Ivan and Craig Moore back on, Chris Pelavanis, of the CEO for Western United, and last week Harry Bingham and Drew. Yeah. So we're getting some great names coming on, and the debate every week is very different. However, I think the one common denominator in all of the conversations we had is that everybody understands the state of football here in Australia needs to change. And I think slowly people are starting to get that message now. And I think we will see change. It's not going to happen now, but it's going to happen for sure. We've already, touch on it now in a moment, but, Foxtel agreement that's been agreed. Not only for this season, but for 21, but also as part of that agreement is the start of moving to a winter league, which is something that all the ex-pros have been talking about, and now it looks as if it's finally gonna take place.
Well, let's talk about that, because I'm sure that is a great conversation starter. As is my name. Often people ask me, Tonchi, Tonki, Tonso. How do I pronounce that name? Tony. And when I start, Tony, and when I start telling them, I like, it's like a great conversation starter. But my name is not the important thing here, Craig. What is important is what that opens up. I mean, firstly, the FFA Cup is not going to be part of that bundle. And in the short term, it's what, $30+ million as opposed to $57 million. So, in the short term, the game is going to take a big hit financially. But the opportunities that it provides, and if it wasn't for this, who knows if we'd be thrust into that. The FFA Cup, it might have to be streamed. It might, and you know what, Craig Moore, another one of our guests, said recently, FFA TV, a Netflix-style subscription service. Well, the FFA Cup would be the perfect headline act for that. Not even talking about the NPL, not even talking about NPLW, not even talking about the various state leagues and what you're not. Just the FFA Cup alone would be, absolutely awesome as far as streaming content is concerned. And that could now become something bigger and better, because that's how the NBL National Basketball League here in Australia, how that started. They ended up having to be forced into a situation where they had to create their own TV channel or their own streaming channel because no one would pick up the NBL. A few years later, it's the hottest property.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think these are good. So, if anybody's got any thoughts on that, I know Chris Pelavanis was very vocal on the winter season, wasn't he? When he was on Twitter, thought it was going to it would cause problems for the game. So it'll be interesting to see what our football fraternity thinks of that. So that's just one of the topics we've got that we can talk about this evening. Just before I do forget, Tonch, and it is, or Tony, or Tonko, or whatever your name is now.
Call me whatever you like.
Yeah, I don't care anymore. I just want to wish my father a big Father's Day back out in Wales. So, Dad, if you listen, I'm not sure whether you are, but you normally do. So, happy Father's Day to all those ex-convicts that are now living in Australia. We've got parents or still back in the UK. So, so we'll move on, Tonch. Competition dates.
Absolutely. Now, before we get to that number again, 0497 151 234. It's in our comment section. If you can't remember that, give us a call. Tell us what you're thinking. Start the debate rolling. Start the conversation. We really, really, really want to know what is going on. Over to you, Craig.
Okay, so competition dates have been announced this week after weeks of speculation. The dates have now been formally out there for everybody to see. They were announced on Friday evening about 4 o'clock, I think. So starts off this week with obviously contact in training allowed for under 18s, which is fantastic. It's a start of the process, I suppose. We just all hope that what's happened in the last 48 hours doesn't have a negative impact and we go back to where we were a few weeks ago, because that'll be disastrous for everybody, I think. But look, MPL juniors start this week or next week. Sorry, the week after next, 4th and 5th, where they'll have a double header Saturday and Sunday, and the same the following week with the MPL junior girls starting the 11th, 12th. Same with community club juniors and mini roos. They also start on July the 12th. Whilst the VPLW State League Seniors, Metropolitan and the Masters start on the 25th and 26th of July, the same as the NPL Seniors. So still a month to go to the for the senior football, but certainly the junior football will be up and away in the next week or so, Tonch.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the best thing is obviously that the restriction regarding non-contacts. In other words, you can have small-sided games in training and tackling and all of that kind of stuff. Obviously, clubs are advised, or coaches are advised, to obviously do that responsibly, I think is the word where they're saying. I think that's the term that that is being bandied around. So in other words, unnecessary contacts such as high fives and obviously things you can't do is drink out of a same drink bottle, but shouldn't do that anyway, full stop. Yep. And obviously turning up, not congregating around, not mucking around as in afterwards and stuff like that. So get to training, train, and go home as quickly as possible.
Yeah, it's going to be very different. We're actually got a friendly on Sunday down at Geelong, so North Geelong against Geelong. I'm not sure how sort of a friendly that'll be, but it is a friendly, and it is very different. You can't turn up to the game until 45 minutes before kickoff, and you have to be out of there within 15 minutes of the game finishing. So football's very different. Although we're back on the park, it is going to be very different for everybody, I think, and it's going to take certainly some getting used to.
And I think that's what people have to realise, that 2020 is in fact going to be unlike any other year. And we see it on various forums. We see it in our comments section, both from the Football Out West show and even here tonight, and even the Geelong show. People are sort of expecting we're going to go back to where we left off. It's not going to happen. Certainly not this year. I mean, I can't see it happening, Craig. And even next year is going to be a transitory year, or a transition year. Don't you think? I mean, I don't think next year will be as it was in 2019.
I don't think football will be the same for a long time, Tom. We don't know what's going to happen with the virus. Everybody, it's all been relaxed and everybody's going about their normal day-to-day business. But you can see what happens when it has. Now all of a sudden we've got, double digits, 25, 30 people for the last 2 days in a row. So, schools are starting to close again. So I don't know. It's going to be very difficult. It's going to be a long, drawn-out process, and I think it's going to take a few years for it to get back to normal, if it does at all. But I suppose we we have to wait and see. Nobody's got a crystal ball and nobody can see what's going. But we just have to all be patient, I suppose, as frustrating as it is. And
yeah, absolutely. All right, that number again, 0497 151 234. We're standing by. We're waiting for your call. We might even take a little bit of a break, Craig. And when we return, actually, what we'll do is we'll listen to our first caller. Hopefully, we'll have our first caller by that stage. Don't go away. We won't be too long. Have you got a business and you want to promote your brand to a ready-made audience? Have you got a birthday coming up in the family and would like to send that someone special a special message? Then why not consider a sponsorship on the Football Out West show? With an ever-growing audience right across Melbourne's western suburbs and the surrounding regions of Wyndham, Melton, Geelong, and even as far as Ballarat, your business or that special person in your life could become a household name. More importantly, you will be armed with the knowledge you are being part of a football show that is fast becoming a movement and a catalyst for great change in our wonderful game locally. The revolution is here and we want you to jump on board and be a part of it. Welcome back to the Football Fan Zone. It's all about you, the fans, and we want to hear from you. Craig, that number again is 0497 151 234. Do we have any callers yet, Craig?
No, we haven't got anybody yet. Like last week, everybody's a little bit shy. So, let's get on. We don't want the same people ringing up. So, John Sultan, if you're thinking of ringing up, don't, because I won't answer your call.
And Joe Giacomozzo, if you're asking what's the number, we've just read it out. It's in the comment section. But just for you, Joey G, we're going to say it's 0497 151 234. Now you can tune into any one of our 3 weekly podcasts. Monday nights, a new time slot for the Geelong Region Soccer Show at 7 p.m. Thursday nights, our Football Out West show at 7 p.m. And, of course, Sunday nights, the Football Fan Zone at 7 p.m. Now, Craig, one other thing, once the season gets underway, I'm tipping this show, the Sunday night show, is going to become our biggest show because it's going to be a de facto results service, I think. And, geez, I'm excited about that. Oh, I think we might even have to end up going to a 2-hour slot once The Voice finishes its season. I think too many people watching The Voice.
Yeah, I think it will be. I think you're right, Tom. I think once all the fixtures start and people want to start debating the results and the games from the weekend, you never know. We even might get Denny from Sydenham coming on. He's on the comments every week, but he's never come on the show. So maybe he's a little bit shy. Maybe he doesn't want to talk Sydenham Park up too much. But be good to hear from you, Denny, and just see what your thoughts are on this season. Get phone in.
Maybe so. Look, whilst we wait for our first caller, let's talk a little bit about the of things as well. We've got I'm just moving around there. We've got the Women's World Cup bid, and that's going to be announced, or not the bid. It's actually the what's going to be announced is the hosting rights, and that's this Friday. So those that are interested, make sure you definitely is get on side. That's the Get On Side movement, which is firmly behind our Anzac FIFA, or our FIFA Women's World Cup 2023 bid, the Anzac bid, Australia and New Zealand. And then we've also got the announcement, which is being dubbed Decision Day or D-Day. And so it'll be streamed live on FIFA.com this Friday, 26th of June. And Australian Eastern Standard Time is 2 o'clock in the morning, 2 a.m. So that is going to be, well, D-Day. There's 3 left. It's all about those 3 countries. Gosh, can Australia can Australia pull through? And we're just going to bring our next. Craig's going to come back, and I think Craig has got someone on the air. Craig, have we got someone?
We do, yes, Tonch. We've got our first caller this evening, and it gives me pleasure to welcome Steve Christou, who's the president of Surf Coast Football Club. Welcome to the show, Steve.
Thanks, Craig. Thanks, Tonch. A couple of rough heads. I was on there as well. I'm pretty well.
Yeah. Look, how are you, Steve? Yeah. Well, that's
like
why.
It'd be like a snooker table.
Say it again.
It'd be like a snooker table, wouldn't it?
Would be, yeah, it definitely would be.
Mate, how are you, mate? How's things with you? You've how has the last few months been with Surf Coast Football Club down Torquay way? You were really gunning for a big season this year, and like the rest of us, it's really knocked us back a few steps, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has. I guess from our point of view, it's been obviously, you know, we've got at senior level, we've got very good teams, and the good numbers in the juniors, but it has thrown a spanner in the works. And probably the reason for my phone call was just even though we've entered teams, there's so much uncertainty still. There was even uncertainty last week when we did enter teams. And do you get that vibe from any other clubs, or are they all? What's the situation with that? Because a few of the guys that I talk to are we're almost over it without, sounding nasty about it, but it's just getting to that stage as a committee, as a group, that it's becoming so, with all those questions marks, it's just becoming so difficult to manage with the changes, so regular as well from that point of view. But and we understand too, there's benefits in getting the game back up and running, but it's just the uncertainties are just probably doing our head in a bit at the moment. So I just want to see what other feedback you guys are getting from other clubs or other people as well.
Craig?
Yeah, good question, Steve. I think, if you look at all the comments and you see the shows week in, week out, I think everybody is in the same boat. Everybody's frustrated. They just want to either start the season or not. It looks as if it's going ahead from what we read from Football Federation the other day when they came out with the report on Friday that, most of the teams have said that they want to play, which is encouraging. But I believe that it's only going to be for 12 games, I think, for the juniors, which doesn't seem a lot given the fact that, there's a lot more teams. So I suppose we don't know, Steve, is the truth.
Yeah.
All we know is the game's coming back. What that'll look like in terms of the leagues and the structure, I suppose we'll know this week. They've got to come out and say, what it's all going to look like this week, having announced that the fixtures will reconvene on the dates that we've said earlier on. So I feel for all clubs at the moment, because it is very hard trying to plan and foresee what's going to happen in a month, 2 months time. So I feel for every club that's out there at the moment, because they're damned if they do, damned if they don't.
Yeah, Sorry, Tom, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, close to you, I mean, we just found out last week that Armstrong United have decided to pull the plug. Yeah. And look, yourself down Geelong way, as is the case all along the western suburbs, there's different clubs. There are clubs that consider themselves, semi-professional. Other clubs that consider themselves football clubs. Other clubs that consider themselves sporting clubs. Some are just social clubs. So everyone's different. But the one common denominator, I think, is across the board the uncertainty. Even today, I was speaking to someone who was saying their son plays at an NPL club, an NPL 3 club, and they've had training. And that's all the parents were talking about at the moment. Will it go ahead? Will it not go ahead? And the thing is, when you don't know, people start to assume. And I guess that is the problem that, with Football Victoria, hats off give them credit where credit's due. They have been really working so hard behind the scenes. But at the same time, one of the things that we've really seen is that the information has been sporadic and it hasn't been clear enough. And I think this is where the problem here is then people are left to their own devices to start assuming and making things up or jumping to different conclusions. I think we really, really need to just, as you say, everyone's over it. I think, but once we start, then we'll probably forget it and we'll be glad that it's back on. But yeah, it isn't easy, that's for sure.
Yeah, I think that's probably, like you say, I think you've hit it on the head. Times from that point of view, we get information, but we're not getting all the information that needs to be provided, or all the answers that needs to be, all the questions need to be answered, or whatever. But that's probably the biggest battle for us. Even with the stuff that came out on Friday, or whatever. But there's talk of a final series, and how long is that going to run into? Does it run into mid-November or whatever now? How's that final series going to look like? Have you guys heard anything about that or not? I don't know. But even with that, like, I know it's a little bit different down the coast here as well, like especially with juniors. They're right into their their summer activities with nippers and stuff like that. So there's a few parents now that they're not going to commit to the season.
Yeah, that was a question. Actually, that was a question I was going to ask you, Steve. Is what are the mindset of the parents and more so the senior players as well for your team down there? Have they committed to coming back, or is it a case, as you just said, then the youngsters or the mini roos or the juniors now are looking at this summer sport? We're led to believe. Sorry, just to jump in there again, that it's going to be finishing up in mid-October, I think, for the junior leagues. With the MPL, I think finishing first week in November. I know this finals in MPL, and we'll touch on that a little bit later. But as far as
but Craig, getting back to what you just said about mid-October, and this is the funny thing. I think the FFE or Football Victoria has actually sent out 2 or 3 different types of correspondence. One was, I think, a press release, a shortened one. But then there was another one that was a little bit, whether it was to the clubs themselves or not. And in it, it actually says, mid-October, end of October, depending on what it is proposed to be the end of the season. The press release
11th of October,
11th of October, But
11th of October for seniors,
I think that the actual press release that they've got on their website, which is kind of an abridged version, doesn't go into that. And I think that's pretty important. But the longer one, which does mention the October, it actually mentions that Football Victoria, and Pat's on the back to them for this, they've actually been talking to Cricket Victoria to synchronise, the end of the football season and the start of the cricket season. So the start of the cricket season is actually being pushed back a bit, and obviously the football season is being pushed back a bit. So, look, obviously the various state bodies are talking to each other, but I think because it involves so many stakeholders, I think, whether it's the players, the coaches, the clubs, and the volunteers, they need to be given a little bit more clearer information. But having said that, look, on Thursday, we're going to have Will Hasty, the head of the Football Operations Department at Football Victoria. He's going to come on the Football Out West show. So we really urge everyone to tune in, to send in your questions via the comment section. Because that's by Thursday, we are going to dead set have a really clear picture where everything is. But Steve, it must be frustrating though, because you're trying to, one, manage your players and coaches and your volunteers, but at the same time, you yourself don't really know exactly to what extent. Correct?
Yeah, spot on. Probably even to answer your questions, Craig, like it's obviously mixed with a junior level. With some parents have now decided that because of the uncertainty, we had like a couple of emails today saying that they're pulling the pin. But there's others that obviously still want to commit, and we still want to commit to training and just see how things go and whatever else, and go from there. From a senior level, the important one was the boys. Pretty well, if there's something to play for, they're still willing to play.
Yeah.
But I know, like Robbie Panetta's done a great job with them and the rest of the coaching staff just to try and keep things. They've been training twice a week as well, but it's hard when you've got non-contact. So
tell me about it.
Now it's getting to a stage where it's getting a bit sort of drawn out for him and the boys, and they sort of they need that contact, which is obviously can't happen.
Yeah, we've said it a couple of times, Steve, that it gets monotonous. Training. Whilst you try and keep it as active and as football related as you can, it's very, very hard when you haven't got contact. And the boys say to me every week, "Can we start tackling?" Oh, no, not yet. But look, we'll go to training to Tuesday this week, and it'll be totally different. So it is starting. Yeah. It is starting, Steve. It is frustrating though.
Yeah, that's I think, like you said, Tons, just clarity on those statements Football Victoria make. I guess if we just had the full statement with a little bit more information is what we need just to know a little bit more about where we're at, and then we can present that to parents or coaches. But yeah, there is information we can now present, which we're trying to update the members as we go. But it's a battle. It's a real battle for all of us. So, and not just for our community, obviously for every committee, all the players,
Yeah. Now, Steve, before we let you go, off the field, how is the club doing? Without revealing too much information, but financially and with sponsors and with the volunteers and members, is it taking a toll on your club off the field as much as it is, I guess, on the field, or are you doing not too bad considering the circumstances?
The battle for us as a club at the moment is our major sponsor has contributed this year, but all the other sponsors we haven't invoiced, and we won't invoice unless something happens with the season. They're willing to contribute. Obviously, they're businesses that are affected. You know what I mean? So we're not going to ask for that as a club. You just can't do it. If there's people that are in a position where they can, that's fine. If the season does go ahead, no dramas. But to be honest with you, we will be financially affected from that point of view. But yeah, it just depends what happens with the whole lot across the board. With the players and whatever else as well. But
I think that's the same across the board, though, Steve. I think we've already looked. If we look at the top league in Victoria, as in the MPL, Bentley have pulled out of the league because of what we can only assume is financial problems with not having been able to have a crowd and players. So it's going to affect everybody at some point in some way. I think what it will do. Well, I'm hoping it will, and I'm not sure whether it will. And this is another discussion for tonight for all our listening viewers. Is will it now start to find the players that actually want to play for football, or the ones that are chasing the money? That'll be the big thing that'll come out of this. Which boys are willing to stay at their clubs and play because they want to play football, and which ones don't because they just want the money. So I think that's the one good thing that will come out of this, if anything. But I think you're right. I think all clubs are going to be in a situation where financially it's going to be very, very difficult.
The other one from our point of view is we've got to contribute to building a facility still. So we're hoping to fundraise this year. So that's probably one of the biggest impacts as well.
Yeah, and your kit and everything is sorted. I know there's a few clubs that have
in the garage. The garage. The missus is probably your phone calls.
Does she know?
She knows, mate. She knows. Don't worry.
She better get it.
All good, guys. Keep up the good work, and I guess we'll keep in touch. And fingers crossed, we'll see how it all pans out.
Yeah, keep in contact, Steve. It's great to see you. Great to hear from you, mate. And when the season does get up, all the best. And let's hope that Surf Coast can get promoted at last.
That would be nice.
All right, pal.
It would be, fantastic. That's Steve Christou, the president of the Surf Coast Football Club from Torquay. One of the biggest clubs, certainly participation-wise, in the top three in Geelong, without a shadow of a doubt. And another club, and I guess a neighbouring club of Surf Coast's Barwon Soccer Club, will be featured in the Club Focus segment of tomorrow night's Geelong Region Soccer Show. So new night there, Monday night time slot, so it should be interesting. And once again, folks from Western Melbourne, it has been a club from the Geelong region, a president from the Geelong region that has been the first one to ring. Last week we had Mario Gregorio from the Corio Soccer Club also providing a wonderful insight into that State League One club. And now we've got Steve Christou from the men's State 4, and also they've got a very, very strong women's program down there in Torquay.
It's a good club, Steve. It's a good club. Steve's a good bloke. We've had many games against Surf Coast over the years, and they've been there or thereabouts now for about 4 years, and they just keep missing out by a point. Or I think last year it was because somebody I can't remember got pulled out of the leagues higher up, which meant they didn't get their promotion. So let's hope that they can get out of State League this year.
I will be interested to see how clubs like Surf Coast and Barwon, who've got a neighbour such as Armstrong United, who have pulled out, and if the same happens down in Melbourne, well, I'm not sure at the moment. We've heard that Barnstoneworth United are pulling their senior teams out, not their junior teams. I'd be interested to know if that's going to have any flow-on effect as far as players that still want to continue playing now migrating, even if it's just for this season, to one of these neighbouring clubs. Because I know down at Surf Coast, their technical director has actually moved now to, I believe it's Geelong, the NPL 3 outfit down there. You know, look, you can't hold people back if they want to be involved in football this year, and for whatever reason their club is unable to provide that, they're going to move. So market forces or market demand will start dictating things. Do you reckon that will become an issue, Craig? Will we see a lot of movement happening, you know, forced movement, however you want to call it?
Well, it's already started, hasn't it? If you look at the higher leagues, if we start right at the top, you know, there's already players from MPL going down to state league clubs, with a number of high-profile state league clubs cashing in, I suppose, on some players and getting some players in. But it's going to happen. It's going to happen throughout football, Tom.
Yeah.
It's the nature of the beast. You know, team coaches, players want to go and better themselves, whether it's on the playing side or financially. I wish it wasn't the second one, but unfortunately, the mentality of we spoke about last week with Mario, you know, the fact that he gets a lot of visa players come in for the mentality of they actually play for less money and they actually want to be here. So it is very difficult, but I don't think it'll change. I think football's that type of environment that there's always going to be people up and down from league to cup, club to league to wherever. So I don't think that'll ever change. One thing I do want to say, and I just see Josh Romain from Ballarat. Good evening, Josh. Ballarat have had some changes in the last couple of weeks as well, with the experienced James Robinson having left his post at Ballarat, and he's been there quite some time.
What's happening there, Josh? Josh, if you're listening, ring us up. Ring us up on 0497 151 234. We don't get to hear much from Ballarat. We would love to hear what's happening up there. We've got a lot of people active on the comments, but they're not ringing through. So we'd love to hear. We'd love to get you to ring us up and tell us what is going on. That number again, 0497 151 234. 0497 151 234. Text us with your question. We'll call you back as soon as possible and we'll get you on the air. Now, Craig, the TV rights. That's another thing I'd love to talk about. We've talked about it. We just touched on it at the moment, the Fox Sports. Obviously, things will never be the same like they were before, and it's not just confined to our game, to our sport. It's the AFL has had to take a big cut. The NRL has had to take a big cut. Rugby union is really, really struggling. Cricket, the same thing. I mean, CEOs are being sacked left, right, and centre, and people laid off. Is there silver lining in all of this? You know, we've seen Fox Sports, and some would even say towards the end of the last 12 months or so, Fox Sports has treated football with a great deal of contempt. And I guess that's the, you know, we saw that from $57 million a year, they offered initially $11 million. That's what they value the A-League and football. I
think it's gone up to 32, hasn't it now? I think it's
something like that. That was 32 million. Yeah. Is there some is there a silver lining in all of this?
Look, the silver lining, I suppose, is the fact that they you know, if we had this discussion last week, there wasn't going to be Foxtel. The A-League wasn't going to be on TV at all. So I suppose the silver lining is there that they are back on board. They are back on board for not only this season but for next season. But I still believe that the pay-per-view Netflix style scheme, I think, would have greater legs, because it would be a football-specific channel that shows all football, not just the A-League, but it would show, you know, the MPL, the women's MPL. It show grassroots football, senior state men's. So I think it's a different avenue. One that I'd like to see, I think, if I'm honest. I don't want to watch AFL.
Oh, absolutely.
Don't turn into any. Never watched.
Oh, mate, last night.
2 games since I've been here, Tom, and I just can't watch it.
let me tell you this. Last night I got KO Sports because I've got a 14-day free trial because I let go of Fox Sports. And I thought I'll just get KO Sports. I wanted to watch the footy last night. Oh, it lasted not even 3/4. Oh, it was just like not only the fact that Geelong was getting hammered up until the 3/4 mark, and I'm a Cat supporter, I'm lukewarm, but the spectacle, the game itself. Take away the crowd, take away the over exuberance and the enthusiasm of their commentators, and they do a good job. They package it up well, but take that away and give just the game itself was woeful. It was not fun viewing. That's for sure.
Look, it is. This is not an AFL. This is not an AFL show. So the less we talk about it, the less important it is. Yep. So going back to Foxtel, I think they're on board. Let's appreciate the fact that they've got on board. There is 32 million coming back into the A-League, which can only be a good thing. But I think it's a short-term process. I think whilst things behind the scenes take place with Craig Moore's proposal for the Netflix, I think that's the way it'll go. If you look at the league with Manchester City and Spurs and Bayern Munich and Real Madrid all having their own TV shows, I think that's the way it'll go.
And I think that's what people want to see. Now, what I would love to hear from people is, we did hear Craig Moore a few weeks ago saying, if it was $20 of the registration and it was diverted to this Netflix program, how you could raise an X amount of dollars. But I would love to see if people would be willing to pay a monthly fee. So, for example, $10 or $15 per month, obviously depending on what the content is. But if it was, say, the FFA Cup, in the long term, a second division, maybe even having all the A-League games simulcast as well on the app. Why not have NPL state competitions? Why not have various state leagues or states having their own magazine style program? Simon Camilleri says needs to be free to get real exposure. I'm not sure if he's talking about the FFA TV type thing or if he's talking just about free to air TV of the A-League. Yeah. But what I'd like, but I'd love to know if people would be willing to, say, pay $10 or $15 or whatever the case may be per month. So it's an ongoing payment, because $20 a year is nothing. That's like $2 per month. That is ridiculously cheap, 4 million. We've only got 2 million players, and that includes a lot of kids and multiple families and stuff like that. Would we get a million? Would we get a million subscribers? I don't know. Maybe 250,000. Maybe. Yeah. What?
And look, it can only be good for the game, Tonch.
Absolutely. Look, we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear from you what you think you'd like to do. What whether it be the subscription TV, whether it's winter season. I know that's one of those issues that will really polarize people. Some people will love it, some people won't. The reality is we'd actually have the best of both worlds. Because if the season is starting in December or starting in January or even starting in February, the first few months are going to be very hot. They're the hottest time of the year. So you'll actually get quite warm months. You'll have this winter in the middle, and they're even talking about maybe having like a winter pause or a winter break like they do have in Europe, which could be obviously for Euro Championships, Asian Cups, the World Cups, etc., etc. And then restarting in July or August and finishing eventually in November. Interesting. I like the idea personally. I think, playing for 9 months of the year, then having a very short 3-month pre-season or off-season, I personally like that idea. Craig, I saw something today where someone actually said, I think it was on Twitter or LinkedIn, someone actually suggested, well, if it goes to a winter, how good then would it be to have a semi-professional / professional national futsal league operating in the off months? Something completely different. And once upon a time we used to have that in this country, but this is what I like. I like people thinking outside the square. So we'd love to hear from you if you have got something on your mind. 0497 151 234.
Well, we do have a caller on the line waiting, Tonchi. We have Paul Guthrie from Werribee. Good evening, Paul. Second time caller, I believe.
Yeah, second time caller, and I'll do my apologies first to Tonchi because I was pronouncing his
name. Like we said at the start of the show, it's a conversation starter, Paul. Great to have you back, Paul. Really, it's a pleasure. It was a pleasure chatting to you last time. Even bigger pleasure chatting to you this time.
Yeah, so I have a comment or a question for you guys. Just wondering, with the latest, Daniel Andrews conversation around closing things down again or everything looking bleak again, how is that going to affect the football in the next couple of weeks for the kids? Do you think the FFV have any counter plan in terms of what's going to happen, et cetera, et cetera?
Well, I think they've come out and said that the football sport is not going to change. I think that's been came out yesterday or today in his speech that sport will continue as it is. But I suppose, Paul, it's watch this space. If there are any more outbreaks around, then I suppose who knows what will happen. It's very difficult, it's and I've been, I put something on Facebook earlier on, and and I sort of blamed the guys that went to the rally in Melbourne, and then had a couple of people come back and say, well, you can't say that because it's now come from family contact. How do we know it's come from family contact? That might just be a cover up from the government because they didn't deal with the situation they should have dealt with 3 weeks ago and gone in there and fined everybody who turned up $1,600 like they did people who like the poor girl who was driving a car on a driving school the other week and got fined. So
it's a bit of a challenge, isn't it? 2,000 coppers and 20,000 fines. It just doesn't work, right?
No, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, so I don't know. You got any thoughts on that, Tonch? Sean?
Look, Trevor? At the end of the day, the third time lucky. At the end of the day, everything that we say is obviously going to be a hypothetical if we're looking into the future, and no one can know. No one can know for sure. Look, I think at the end of the day, it's a good sign that despite these and I'm going to be very careful here because I do not want to mix politics and football where it's unwarranted, even though in this day and age it's always going to be the case that some things are going to overlap. But if you can't have more than 5 people at your home, but if we 5 of us plus another 15 people went to a restaurant, we can have 20 people together.
You can go to Bunnings.
You can go to Bunnings. You can go. That's not an issue. You can go to a protest in Melbourne. Not an issue. You can go. Look, school. There's 1 week of school left. 1 week of school, and now the schools are the problem at the moment because we've had outbreaks of various. Well, why aren't they then prematurely shutting the schools down a week before school holidays?
They've closed 2 today.
2 today.
So I think,
So I think. But how many in the state? There's not 2 schools in the state. I mean, if you're going to do it, do it. If you're not going to do it, don't do it. Don't do this kind of haphazard thing. So I'm really surprised, one, that gyms, even though I'm a big advocate, big believer that gyms should have stayed open because I think of the mental health element. And we'll be talking a lot more about that in the next few weeks. We've got some really big guests coming up on both the Geelong Region Soccer Show and Football Out West who are going to be discussing that that mental health element, which has really taken a battering because we haven't had sport, we haven't had any of that happen. So there's a lot of contradiction there, and I think that's what bothers people. You know,
what has your club said, Paul?
Sorry, what was that?
What has your club said?
Just as per normal, ready to start in the next couple of weeks. The boys are training twice a week at the moment, and so forth, and you know, they're all getting back into it and so forth. But there doesn't seem to be as many teams down there at the same time on each of the nights. So they are separating them to some degree, I think.
It's going to be very, very different. You know, we've got a game on Sunday, and there's 4 games going on down at Geelong, and it is very fair play to Geelong. They've sent out a map of what the pitches look like, where you can warm up, where different age groups can park, where the cut-off zones are for various parents. Now you can only have 20 people at the game, which is effectively 1 parent. So look, football's going to be very, very different for a long time, I think. But
and I suppose we're also lucky in the fact that, you know, we've got 4 pitches, right? So, but it's still going to be a challenge, I think, because there's only 1 exit and 1 entry point, right? And keeping 1.5 meters apart is a challenge, just like it is in Bunnings or anywhere else, right? It's a nightmare.
Yeah, well, Maxi Santich has proposed that we all meet for a protest at the soccer club. Bring your boots, and we'll have a team chat at Bunnings afterwards. Great comment, Maxi.
We'll make a disclaimer that we don't necessarily agree with all of the comments, and some of them we do, some of them we don't. But you know, every person that makes a comment stands by their comment. Paul, a quick question before we do go: the trainings at your club. Are other teams training what they normally would, twice a week, 3 times a week, or have they sort of cut that down?
Yeah. So my son plays for an MPL club under 13s, I think he is, or under 14s. I can't remember.
Ask your wife how old he is, mate. You'll find out then.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not sure who she is either. No, I'm only joking, of course. But they're training twice a week.
Under 14s, he is, Paul.
Under 14s, so you know. That's correct. He's training on a Tuesday night and also on a Saturday morning.
Okay, got him.
Yeah, it was usually 3 days from Monday to Friday, but not in Saturday. And unfortunately, he can't go somewhere else on Saturday mornings at the moment. So anyway, so I think all the teams have been reduced to 2 days rather than 3 days of training. I'm not quite sure what the seniors are doing. I have no idea about them. Haven't seen them at all over the last few weeks since the little fella's been back.
Yeah. All right, Paul, good man. Thank you for calling in again. Really appreciate it. And catch up with you soon.
Appreciate it, Paul. Good on you. And we look forward to you joining us again in the not too distant future. Really appreciate your contribution. Thank you. Okay, that was Paul from Werribee. So we've had Steve from Torquay, Paul from Werribee, and who's going to be our third caller? Before now, there was talk. Premier Andrews did mention there is the possibility that there could be certain hotspots or certain hotspot council areas that could come under particular scrutiny, or could come under, I won't say under fire, but could come under certain stricter conditions. And on the flip side, there could be areas, particularly a lot of regional areas that have not been hit at all, might be returning back to some sort of normality a lot quicker than normal. Now, Brenton Ray, the Ray man from Hoppers Crossing, he's a wealth of information. And in the comments section, he's actually put up the hotspot council areas at the moment, and this is quite interesting: Brimbank, Casey, Darebin, Hume, Moreland, and Cardinia. So it's all in the northern areas, up in the northern suburbs, bar Brimbank. Obviously, Brimbank in the western area. So that is a hot spot. We've seen a couple of schools affected in that area. So hopefully things are contained, Craig, particularly over the next week or so, because the Labor government is saying everything is up for reassessment the 12th of July, if not before, if things deteriorate. But at the moment, you'd certainly hope that things could improve I guess, you know, in a statistical sense, because that's what everyone's looking at the moment. And, you know, we don't want anyone overreacting, certainly not the government. But look, we also don't want the football community out there, or society in general, to become too complacent. I guess that's the other thing as well. Craig? Oh, Craig's gone. He looks like we may actually have someone. We may actually have someone on the radio. If that is the case, that is going to be good. Look, we're going to go through some of the comments at the moment. Have we got someone, Craig? Oh, no, something's struggling there. All righty. So let's go through some of the comments. Well, here's a good comment from Sylvia Attard. So if one parent is a team manager for a team, does that exclude the other parent from attending the game? Good questions, Sylvia. Something for the for, I guess, your club to answer that. I'm sure they'll be having a lot more of an idea, and I'm sure some of the information that would be handed out to people would be a lot more accurate, that they'd be able to know. Craig, you there? Have we lost you? Okay, looks like we may have lost Craig for the time being. All right, Sam Matthias says, what happens if a club member, player, coach gets coronavirus? What happens to the club? Does it get shut down? Well, I guess we can ask the Essendon Bombers about that. That's a one of those things. What if? There's so much of it is happening. Now, getting back to the idea of a subscription-based TV service, Netflix-style service, John Sultana from Altona Magic says, no, you won't get a million. You'll get 100,000 tops. Okay, interesting. That's what John is saying. Now we're going to try and see if we can get Craig's coming back on. Craig's about to come back on. Craig, how are you? Have we got anyone on the line?
No, we haven't got anybody at the moment, Tonch. Nobody online at the moment. So if you do want to get on, we have a free line. So get yourselves on. Well,
there's a lot of chatting and a lot of talking on the comment section. They seem to have all got a case of laryngitis, Craig. I think they're all suffering from laryngitis. They can talk with their hands and their keyboards. They just can't do it verbally. Look.
Absolutely. Just want to touch on what Sam Matthias has said there. What happens if a club member, player, coach gets corona? What happens to the club? Does it get shut down? Potentially, I suppose. Yeah, I suppose. Look, what's happened with Essendon in the last 24 hours. One of their players has contracted it. So yeah, I don't know. What would happen? I presume that the club would go into shutdown, and everybody would have to self-isolate, I suppose. Donch, any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, that's. I'm sorry, I was distracted actually. John Sultana's put a comment there, not from Magic. Did I say John's from Altona Magic? Did I? Well, no, John Sultana is not about to defect from Altona City to Altona Magic, although we almost caused a big stir there. No, John, you're from Altona City, not Altona Magic. Sorry, Craig, what was that question again?
I've no idea, Tont.
Well, we're going to take a little bit of a short break. Hopefully, come on, folks, 0497 151 234. Jump on board. We want to hear from you. We've had Steve Christou from Surf Coast, Paul from Werribee, no one from Western Melbourne just yet, and that's the biggest demographic area at the moment. So come on, we want you to jump on board. We want you to say something. And you know, ring us up on that number, 0497 151 234. Have you got a business and you want to promote your brand to a ready-made audience? Have you got a birthday coming up in the family and would like to send that someone special a special message? Then why not consider a sponsorship on the Football Out West show? With an ever-growing audience right across Melbourne's western suburbs and the surrounding regions of Wyndham, Melton, Geelong, and even as far as Ballarat, your business or that special person in your life could become a household name. More importantly, you will be armed with the knowledge you are being part of a football show that is fast becoming a movement and a catalyst for great change in our wonderful game locally. The revolution is here, and we want you to jump on board and be a part of it.
CMF Soccer Coaching offers tailor-made personal and small group development coaching throughout the western suburbs of Melbourne and Greater Geelong. With over 20 years of experience working and playing within the academy systems of several professional clubs in both the UK and Australia, CMF Soccer Coaching has a player-first philosophy to ensure that all sessions are tailored around the individual's needs at all times. Under the guidance of UEFA and AFC qualified coaches, we specialise in one-on-one and small group coaching sessions, offering European-style academy-level training with the sole aim of improving players' technical and game understanding in a safe, friendly environment. If you are new to the game or a seasoned campaigner looking for some additional coaching, then we can help. To find out more about what we can offer and how we can help you improve your game, visit our Facebook or Instagram pages for more information, or simply email us at cmfsoccercoaching@gmail.com.
Welcome back to the Football Fan Zone. It is absolutely great to have you on board with us tonight. Now, we've already hit 8 o'clock, and Craig, have we got anyone on the phones?
We do. We have from Sydenham. I think it's Miles. Good evening, Miles. I think you've been on before.
Evening, Craig. Evening, Tunch. How you going, boys?
Hey, Miles. How are you, mate? Good to have you again. Yeah, that's right. I think we've had you before, haven't we?
We have.
Oh, it's good to have you back. Good to have you back, Miles. What's on your mind? What would you like to chat about this fine Sunday evening?
Well, honestly, guys, I mean, I've just sort of jumped on and I'm just going to just sort of wing it here, but I'm assuming that we're sort of talking about the coronavirus and the second hit.
Oh, amongst other things, yeah.
So, look, I honestly think that the VFF should sort of pull the pin and sort of give them an opportunity to sort of restructure the league and start fresh for the new year, guys. I mean, and then still sort of carry on with training. I mean, if this is going to go on with a second wave, we might as well just sort of say, well, let's sit back and just clean out the season and just go from there.
Yeah, look, it's a funny one. It's look, as we said previously, I've said it a number of times now. We're either playing or we're not. We can't be in hybrid. We can't have in between. The Football Federation have come out and said that football's going to restart. That's where it is. We can only hope and pray that there's not going to be a big second wave. They've always said that there's going to be issues, along the way, little hurdles that everybody has to get over. But we are only talking, 20, 25 people at the moment.
Yeah.
But I think it's too far gone now. I don't think they're going to postpone it. I don't think anybody wants them to postpone it. I think it would look poor on everybody if they did. Miles, I think we need to get on with it.
That's right.
And as things progress and as things transpire throughout the season, then I'm sure we'll react to it in the best way that everybody can. But to stop it now and just go back to training, I think would be the wrong thing. We talked about just now, Tonchi, about mindset, mental health. Can you imagine the problems that it would cause now if everybody said, no, we're not going to play football and we'll start next year? I just think the problem now would be far greater than it currently is.
Well, that's it, Craig. I mean, look, everyone's going to sort of now, take a stab at this at the second wind and thinking, how bad it's going to go. Look, and I don't wish it upon no one, that I want everyone to go back to the games and carry on as normal. But if we're sort of hit with this second wave, well, everyone's going to say it's a concern for their safety. You know what I mean? And that's where it's going to be. That's where the disaster is going to happen. So everyone's got to sort of drop their heads and say, oh well, it is what it is. Everyone's in this predicament.
Yeah, you make a really good point, a really interesting point, Miles, and there's some very. I want to ask you a couple of things about that, but I think, as Craig said, the mental element of it. I think one of the things that, even though we had a lot of uncertainty over the last few months, I think the one thing that kept us sane, the one thing that gave us hope, was that sooner or later this has to end, and sooner or later we got to have football. And I think someone said it in the comment section right at the top of the show, and I can't remember who it was. If I can find it, I'll certainly bring it up. But they said, we're just glad. Oh, here we go. Chris Briffer. Here we go. I'm going to put this up. Chris Briffer just said, just happy to see the game back at some capacity. And I think Chris has nailed it there. I think the important thing is, when we know when it's not going to be normal. We know it's not going to be like it was in 2019. But just to have something to keep us sane. I know. Look, I'll be the first to say, Craig, and I've said this to Craig, the fact that we've got this show, the fact that we've got this something to look forward to each week and producing it's kept me sane, definitely. And I know of people, yeah, absolutely. And I know of people, and I actually know of people where I'm sure you're probably the same, Craig. I've spoken to people who have actually said this show, whether it's the Football Fan Zone, whether it's Geelong Region Soccer Show, whether it's Football Out West, it's the one thing that they've been looking forward to each week. It's keeping them sane and it's giving them hope. So we're actually not just football clubs. We're actually more important than that, strangely enough. But one thing you did say, Miles, and I'd love to get your opinion on this. You said maybe the FFE should pull the pin and restructure the league. What did you mean by that? What would you like to see restructured?
Well, like I spoke last time, Tunch and Craig, yeah, I mean, it's nor here nor there through senior ranks or junior ranks, and we spoke about last time. Now, Tunch, you know yourself, in the old system back, we're talking. I mean, I'm going to say we're in the same age bracket, in the 40s.
I'm 21. I don't know about you, my friend.
I mean, look, Craig's been here probably 10 years or something like that.
7 years.
7 years. 7 years.
7 years, too long.
We discussed the last time where, you've got your elite, which is your Premier League up the top, and then obviously you go back down in the old system. And it was far more competitive, more attractive football to sort of see. Even in the junior ranks, you were sort of, even to go on a Sunday and watch an under 16s or under 12s competing against either a North or a West, South or East competition, and towards the end of the finals, which was more appealing. And we haven't got that structure at the moment, and that's what's killing the game as well. The kids aren't competitive, and I'll quote a word that a good friend of mine that's a referee, and he said to me, Miles, there's a major difference between Northwest and East in football, in playing football. Totally different.
In terms of what, Miles?
In playing the game.
In terms of what?
Like we're totally playing different standard games. Yes, they're totally the standard football playing the game.
In what way? So you're saying what, the East is better than the West, or West is better than the East, or
North and West are heaps better than East and South.
Yeah, look, I think that's been we've got to be very careful what we say, because we'll open a whole different debate. But I think the consensus out there is the West, the Northwest football is of a higher level than the East. I think everybody would agree with that. But I think it's as the guest said on Thursday night, it's about everybody working together to try and get the one goal that everybody wants, and that's to create better football players. Doesn't matter where they come from. The idea is that we have the best football players taken to the pitch every Saturday, every Sunday, and out of those better players, hopefully the ones that are at the level required will go on to do better things. That's
better things. That's correct.
That's what you want as a football coach. That's what you want as a player, to go and play or have your players playing at the highest level that they can.
That's right.
Miles, sorry, go Miles.
Yeah, no, go on, Tosh. No, sorry.
I was going to say, now that we're talking back in the day and all that kind of stuff, if everyone always talks about the Super League, and look, it's a great concept. Like if right up until under 16s, And Craig, I'd like to get your take on this as well, because you're in the NPL junior system as a coach, and at the moment you're coaching under 16 level. But if the NPL juniors were abolished basically right up until the under 16s, and you had community clubs, NPL clubs, everyone in the mix, and you had that Super League, Div 1, Div 2, Div 3, Div 4, right down to Div 25 if you had to happen. But at least in that chance, you would have clubs from, community being able to play up at the highest possible level if need be. But once they get to under 17 or under 18, then they graduate into the NPL system. So, if they're serious by that stage, they're going to leave their club. They're going to have to leave their community club to get onto greener pastures if that's what they're seeking. But in the meantime, up until under 16 level, I think they should have, no NPL/community club differentiation. What do you think, Miles?
Well, exactly, Tony. And that's what I stated last time when I spoke to you guys. Yeah, I mean, we had a Super League. From your Super League, which were your mixed your, let's say, so-called now your NPL clubs. So if you've got your Western District of, let's say 8 clubs, and then you've got 8 community clubs, so you've got 16 teams, yeah? Let it throw about. And then you've got your Division A and then Division B, yeah? Let them fight out through the whole thing, and there's 32 rounds, yeah? That takes you right through.
Oh, I like that.
If we hit from, let's say, from mid-April to, let's say, which 32 weeks, let's say, even takes us up to about August, October, somewhere around there. Perfect. That's ideal.
What's the parameters around the community clubs? What level do they need to be playing at? Because you don't want kids going out on a weekend and getting absolutely hammered by your top teams. That does nothing for anybody. So there has to be a good and the best scenario in everything. That's not community football. Community football is hugely important, massively important. If we wouldn't have football, it wasn't for community football clubs. So it just needs to be managed correctly. I know we've spoken on this stage before, and our sponsor, our Thursday night show, George Cross, and I know you've been at George Cross for a few years, Miles, up there.
Yeah.
But it's imperative that the club get promoted into NPL, because at 16, 17, there is no platform for them to go on. If they're not good enough to play at reserves or seniors at a club like George Cross, then they go off to the likes of Green Gully or whoever that might be that might have an under-18s in the NPL. So, for certain clubs, it's massively important that, the NPL is there, because they have to have that, I suppose, the carousel, the wheel of the production line, because they don't want to be having players that have been at clubs since they were 5, 6 years old, and when they get to 17, oh, sorry, you have to leave now because we haven't got a team for you to play in. That's not good for anybody. But it's a huge topic, I think.
But Craig, shouldn't we allow the teams to actually determine that on the field? So if you've got a club that is NPL standard,
what are the parameters?
Promotion, relegation, yeah.
Let's just take, and I'll take an example from the 16s. If I look at Melbourne Knights, who are probably the head and shoulders team in the league, I think they've won the league the last 4 years in each age group. And they would then go and I'll use my local club, my ex-club. Let's go and say they played the under 16s at Point Cook Soccer Club.
Yeah,
is that a fair field for both those clubs to be playing in? Absolutely not.
But hang on a sec, they wouldn't be in the same division if Point Cook are good enough, then they'll be in the same division as the Melbourne Knights. I mean, for example, you're not going to get a Division, say, 5 team and a Division 1 team playing in the same competition, are you? I mean, but this is the thing. You've got to start somewhere. So, Miles, what would you say? How would you transition from what we've got now to what you're talking about? Would you have basically, you've got 48 teams at the moment. I mean, they're going to, after this year, they would have been split into a top tier, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th division. So there's your ranking immediately. And then wouldn't you have something below that, the community? Now, if the next best community team, if they get promoted, they're not going to go into Division 1 NPL. They'll go like the equivalent of Division 4.
Yeah. Well, look, we'll put it this way: how does if I'm right, how does Bendigo become an NPL club when you've got a community club that smashes them in pre-season on any other day, smashes them or Nylands them with so many goals, but yet now they've been taken out? It's the same question what Craig was asking, but then if you've got Melbourne Knights, you've got let's say in the Western District, you've got Melbourne Knights, you've got Altona. Who else would you have in there? You would have Green Gully. Yeah. Green Gully. You'll have George Cross. You got 4 teams there automatically, yeah. So your superior team is automatically your Melbourne Knights, yeah. So you sort of work out who's in that caliber in that area that's been the top 4 in that Western District, or so-called, to make it equivalent, and then you sort of look at your community A divisions, Division 1, yeah, or your A group, and you pick your next 4 in that, with they've won sort of consecutively, to sort of mix up the bunch, because it gives that community side of it as well, guys, a thrive up against the NPL teams.
Yeah, if they're good enough. If they're good enough. If they're not good enough, then they're not going to get that opportunity. Absolutely.
No.
Yep.
Look, I even remember back in those days, yeah, we had powerhouses against Preston and Heidelberg and Juventus and so on. And you'll see some scores that in there that are absolutely like, 4-5-0, 6-0, 7-0, whatever the case is, and then they'll have an off day and they'll get smashed 3-0, 4-0 against the community side.
Yeah. Now, back in the day, Miles,
you won't always be cruising on an easy street.
Yeah, but back in the day, didn't each age group have its own, like a knockout cup? Like, under 12s, all the under 12s in Victoria, Southeast, Northwest, whatever, they all had their knockout cup. So, in effect, if you're a Division 4 team, you could still potentially come up against a Super League team. So, you had that opportunity to play against clubs that were far, far better than you, or ranked far better than you.
Well, you had that. That's what we used to call the regional finals, Tony.
Yeah. We don't have that. Yeah.
Finals.
Yeah, but Craig, like,
I don't think if they still do it or not. They used to have your national finals, which you played up against New South Wales, Queensland, and so on.
Oh, we definitely don't have that
throughout the whole state. Came up against at a national state. They had a selecting state where they played off
at club level. I'm not sure. I don't think there was not at club level.
I think it was from 16 and onwards, Tunch. I think it was 16 and onwards.
Yep. Unless you're talking about the state rep teams, maybe?
It was because of financials.
Okay, yep. Interesting point, though. Interesting point you bring up. Craig, like I said, you're in the NPL system, coaching at the moment. And this year they had a restructure. And I guess we never had that opportunity to see it in full action. But that business we talk about, like the Super League, the best of the best, the top 3 in West, the top 3 in South, the top 3 in East, and the top 3 in North, coming together in a 22-round home and away season. Step in the right direction, mate? What do you think? Or was that...
I've said it on here before, and I'll say it again. I haven't been a big fan of the NPL since I've got here, because I've always thought it's been elitist. But now, having been in that environment for probably 3 or 4 months now, I actually think it's a very good system. What they've done this year with everybody playing each other and then split into the league. So effectively, what you do have is you have your best 8 or 9 clubs, and then you're also ranked. So you're playing against teams of similar ability. Now, could there be, as Miles just said, could there be a cup run in there as well? So there's you get your chance of your bottom team maybe playing and playing the likes of a Melbourne Knights in a cup round, a little bit like the Doherty Cup, that teams from outside of the state league have an opportunity to play against one of the top teams if they play. We're starting that process again next week. I've enjoyed it. It certainly pits. You end up with your teams that are in certain levels. They end up playing where their level is. That's the reality. And I personally think it's a good thing. It's happened in the MPL2 as well, if you remember. So the MPL2 senior men was 2 divisions in terms of East and West. They've now brought the best top 6 of each league into one league. So that becomes a better, more stronger league because you've got two groups of teams playing each other, and then you've got the Ulster runs going down to the MPL 3. So look, I think it's good. I don't think the Super League will ever come back. I was unfortunately not to be here for the Super League. But the comments and the discussions we've had, I suppose, like Harry said on Thursday, let's take elements of what was good and what did work in the past and take them into what could be the future. That's the important bit now. We can't dwell on the Super League's not coming back. That's the reality. It's now governed by independent Victorian and regional federations, and they've got the MPL structure. So the Super League's not coming back. It's how we can make it better. That's going to generate the best players playing against the best players week in, week out. That's what we have to get to. Interesting
points, gents. Miles, any other comments? Any last comments?
Miles has left the building.
Miles has left the building. Look, we'll take one more caller. We're pushing it. We've already gone an hour and 22 minutes. A lot to talk about tonight. A hell of a lot to talk about. Some great comments happening in the comment section. So we do want you to look. We'll take one more caller if there is. If not, we'll just have to wind it up and early to bed tonight and big week coming up.
Tell you what we will talk about while we're waiting for somebody to call in.
Yeah.
Let's have a touch on the EPL. Oh, in fact, if you give bear with us, it looks like we got a caller, Tom.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic. And while we're talking about the EPL, well, we've got some Everton playing Liverpool tomorrow night at 4 o'clock. Aston Villa taking on Chelsea at 1:15 a.m. So some interesting comments happening. Interesting scores and potential scores happening there as well. We're going to bring
Norwich losing at home 3-0 to Southampton.
Yeah.
We had Spurs and Manchester United drawing 1-1, which was a pretty dour game. I think David De Gea has come in for some fairly hefty criticism after that game. Watford 1, Leicester 1. Leicester scoring with a cracker from Chilwell on 90th minute. If you haven't seen it, it's one hell of a strike with his left peg into the top.
That's brilliant, wasn't it?
Yeah, only for Watford to go up the other end and score the equaliser in the 93rd minute with Dawson. Brighton, I suppose the big result from or was it a big result? Arsenal, 2 games, lost both of them now. Beating Arsenal 2-1. So does that put an end to Arsenal's Champions League hopes? I think it probably does at this stage. And Wolves keep going. They keep getting the results week in, week out. They're now really in the zone there for that final Champions League spot, and they came away from West Ham with a 2-0 win. Just keeps them 2 points off the Champions League. Crystal Palace beat Bournemouth 2-0, and now tonight we got some more big games. We got Newcastle take on Sheffield United, who were robbed of a VAR decision against Villa on Thursday evening, which could have caused them massive issues in their hope of getting that top 4 place. But a win today will take them above Manchester United into 5th place and 2 points behind Chelsea, who are playing Aston Villa in a huge game, which is for both clubs for different reasons. Aston Villa down at the bottom and Chelsea getting that Champions League spot. And then you have the big one, Everton versus Liverpool. Can Everton
Merseyside derby
at Goodison Park? And I think if Liverpool win this game, they just need one more win to get the title. And I don't care whether you're a Liverpool fan or not; they deserve to win the league now. And I hope they do. I'm not a Liverpool fan, but I hope they do it. But the biggest game of the weekend is not the Everton Liverpool derby, Tonch.
No, which one is it?
Cardiff City and Leeds.
Cardiff City and Leeds.
So that's always a big game. It's a huge, massive, 2 big clubs. Rivalry is phenomenal, and that'll be some game to watch tonight.
Well, thank goodness we have got some live football to enjoy, to really, really to just savor, to enjoy, and I think that's what we need at this time of these, in the middle of these crazy times. On that note, well, we haven't had. We may have someone right in at the death. Have we got someone? Let's put him on. Let's put him straight on. Who have we got on the line?
Your mate Joey from Corio Soccer Club, Tonch.
Joey G finally found the phone number.
I haven't found any phone number. I'm still.
No, you're live on air, Joe.
How you doing, boys? How are we feeling with this whole lockdown and all the restrictions being tightened back? How are we feeling?
Look, it's frustrating, I think, for everyone. I think the fact that it's all so confusing and so contradictory and you name it, but I'm not going to get involved. I'm going to talk about football. I'm not going to talk about politics. If you want to know how I'm feeling, go to my Facebook profile, but that's about it. Joey G, what would you like to
do? Yeah, that's Rob Cash's fault.
Yeah, Rob Cash. Yeah, Rob, right. Rob, so yeah.
You what, guys, with the whole season, I believe that if they're going to do the season, they've got to have the season at full pelt. They've got to have the 22 rounds. They've got to have the relegation. They've got to have promotion. Like, there's no point going and saying, all right, we'll eliminate this aspect of football, but we'll have this aspect of football. Like, tell me the logic there. Like, I just think that if you're going to have the season, it's to be done properly. It's to be done the way in which we've done it every other year.
But it's not every other year.
I agree with you, and as I've said from day one, we're either in or we're out. We can't be a hybrid, and I'll keep saying it until I'm blue in the face. But you're right. We've got to do it now, and we've got to go properly. And it's if there's teams pulling out, so be it. That's football. It's their decision. It's not the government and the Football Federation not holding anybody over a barrel with it. It's their choice. If they choose not to play, that's their choice. Let the game continue.
But Joey, do you think
that Bentley Green's pulled out in the recent days in terms of the league?
Yeah, they have.
Because the NPL was about 4 or 5 games into the season, what's going to happen? Are they gonna go back from round 5?
No. So what will happen is in the NPL there's already 12 rounds being played.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the results for Bentley Greens will be scrubbed, so they become effectively a bye, and then there'll be an 8-team final series, quarterfinals, semi-finals, and a grand final, with the quarterfinals and semis to be played over 2 legs. That's what we're hearing. So the NPL will continue as it is. They'll finish the season, and then the top 8 play in a knockout.
To me, that's how the season should always be. Like, to me, there should be a full 2-legged final. No point going and treating it like it's the AFL, where once you've played, you're out. It should be 2 legs, and over 2 legs, whoever wins, wins, whoever loses, loses. Now, with, the whole coronavirus situation, like, now it's time for the Federation, in my honest opinion, to be able to have a rethink and have new ideas and make football better, in a sense.
I agree. I do agree. One thing I don't agree with both of you guys is it's a weird year, and it's not your normal year. So you can't really go this all or nothing, because there's just so many. You know what? Not
many variables, Todd.
Yeah, too many variables. Take away Dan Andrews and the Labor government. Take away the Football Federation. Even Joey, you're from Corio Soccer Club. Even within Corio, even within your own club, you don't know who's going to come back as far as players are concerned. You don't know whether they're going to be motivated or not. You don't know whether some of the ones that are probably getting paid more will say, yeah, I'm happy to take a pay cut. Even within your own micro environment, I think there's just so many unknowns, and it's just hard to say, okay, we'll do what we've been doing in 2019. We're going to have a full home and away. clubs like Corio are lucky. You've got a football facility, a purpose-built football facility, and there are so many other clubs as well. Thank God for that. But there are a lot of clubs that do share their facilities with other sports and probably can't push it into October, November, and that's the only thing. But everything else you've said, mate. Who am I to argue with, Joey G? You're brilliant. I love listening to you, mate.
Thank you. I mean, before lockdown even happened, I had a midfielder done. And I remember on Sunday, Mario spoke on the phone about him, Ivan Dadamo. And before lockdown, he was supposed to come the Thursday to come and train with us and to see how he felt. Mm-hmm. But then when the government went and said, all right, after Tuesday, you're not allowed, I was very annoyed that I couldn't, sign him up. So for 2 months, I was constantly in constant communication with him and saying, look, mate, whenever the season does decide to make its return, I want you to come along and I want you to be part of our team and add to what we need, make us stronger in in that one area in the midfield to add that screen, add that protection, but at the same time, add that fluidity to the team, to the team.
I actually want to ask you about your new role as Geelong's new state-of-the-art player negotiation officer or agent, Joey. How's that going for you?
So good, man. I mean, there are some players that I targeted in the off-season that I was able to get. I was lucky to get Lorenzo because with Lorenzo, I spoke to him. He was a player I analysed against. And I said to myself, if we get promoted, why don't I go for this guy and see what happens? And the funniest thing is, I'm happy that he came across and I'm happy that I was able to give him an opportunity to come play in State League 1, albeit it's in Geelong, but he's still getting a chance to play at a higher level against quality opposition. And I'm happy that I was able to lure him into the club. But with Ivan, there's a backstory to how I got Ivan across.
Tell us your backstory, Joe.
So it was when Ante was coach. Ante wanted a defensive midfielder because he used to have this thing that he loved defensive midfielders, that defensive midfielders were crucial to the way he played. One Thursday training session, he asked Lorenzo, do you know any good midfielders? And Lorenzo goes, why don't you go for my mate, Ivan Dadamo, and see what he tells you? So it was all back and forth. Then the virus hit. Then there was no training on the Thursday after, which I was annoyed at that. So I kept talking to Ivan. I said, look, pal, I want to sign you up. I want you. You're a quality footballer. You're everything that I look for. You're everything that a coach looks for. And to have been able to get a player as well credentialed as him, I'm very lucky. He's my biggest signing to date and the club's biggest signing outside of when Robbie Nosler was coach and he was able to lure ex-NSL, striker, goal scorer extraordinaire in Adrian Savinsky. So it's good times at the moment, in my opinion. And I like giving players, internationals, opportunities to come and play the game they love, but at the same time be able to test themselves and, and be that person that can help them in their career and, be that person that they can talk to when they need a hand or an opportunity. And I enjoy that sort of stuff because I get to know players, I get to know their attitudes, and it's something I'm really passionate about. I do this a lot with Japanese players, but I was lucky that I was able to do it with Lorenzo and I was able to do it with Ivan because it's worked in advance. I really love it.
Fantastic, mate. You're doing a great job down there, Joe. You can sense in your voice that you're really passionate about it.
Enthusiasm, absolutely.
Keep up the good work, pal.
Good on you, Joey G. Absolute pleasure having you on the Football Fan Zone. Well, Craig, that brings us to the end. We've definitely gone well over time, but hopefully that everyone has enjoyed tonight's show. The numbers have been really good. Obviously, tonight's the first time that we've simulcast on 2 Facebook platforms. So really appreciate everyone being a part of tonight's show. Join us tomorrow night, Monday night, for the Geelong Region Soccer Show, streamed live from 7 p.m. That's on the Geelong Region Soccer News Facebook page, and that will be also simulcast on Football Out West at 7 p.m. And then on Thursday night, make sure to join us as well. That's when we're going to be bringing you the Football Out West show from 7 p.m. on the Football Out West News Facebook page. And Craig, that's right, it'll be simulcast on the Geelong show. Big show on Thursday night. Will Hasty from Football Victoria, the football operations head, he'll be hopefully being able to clarify a lot of things and clear up a lot of uncertainty as far as season 2020.
Yeah, looking forward to having Will on. Think it'll hopefully he'll be a little bit outgoing and give us some information that everybody wants. And I'm sure he's had a tough few weeks. But they're all behind him now, and I think he can probably start looking to the season starting. So hopefully we'll get some good debate going. And if you have any questions for Will, for anybody, like I said, drop us a text on the text line 0497 151 234, and we will try and ask Will your questions. Or even if we do have time, we may even be able to open the phone lines up and ask some questions yourself. But make sure you're listening from 7 o'clock on Thursday evening.
On that note, thank you very much to everyone for joining us throughout the night tonight. Really appreciate it. You've been watching the Football Fan Zone, episode 4, and on behalf of Craig Filer and myself, Tonchi Prusak, good night and have a great week.